Let's talk about frustration because weight loss is notorious for it. And I'm almost positive that I don't need to really describe the feeling of frustration to you right now, as I'm sure if you have been on a weight loss journey that you have experienced it at some point. Frustration is the feeling of being upset, annoyed, or discouraged when there's a gap between where you are right now and where you want to be. We want it, we're not getting it, we're frustrated. It's so important that we first recognize that frustration is a feeling. Just like all feelings, they come and they go. I wanna help you navigate this feeling because if you are on a weight loss journey and there's a day that you don't see it reflected on the scale, it's going to be tempting to feel frustrated. And even more tempting to then throw in the towel. But I'm gonna tell you what to do instead, because feeling frustrated rarely has a positive chain of actions that follow. Not that there's anything inherently wrong with frustration, it is a feeling, and we all have feelings, but where most of us struggle is having this emotional intelligence to know what to do with that feeling. So then we have unchecked frustration. And unchecked frustration ends up causing unnecessary suffering. And I believe that pain is inevitable in life. Frustration is inevitable. We're going to feel it sometimes, but suffering, that's optional. So today, we're gonna take our power back from frustration. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that you will never feel frustrated again. We all do, we all will. We are human. However, what we can learn is how to respond to frustration. We will not give up just because we experience that feeling. We will improve our emotional intelligence so that we can reprogram a different response to it and then improve our life exponentially. Let's start with this. What is emotional intelligence? I've said it twice now. Emotional intelligence is the ability to notice your emotions, be able to interpret them, and then respond to them in a healthy way. Not react, respond in a way that actually benefits you. The emotions that you feel are a direct response to the thoughts that are going on in your head, which are a direct response to the belief system that you are holding. Let me give you an example to illustrate what I'm talking about. First, we're gonna take Sarah. Sarah has just had a meeting with her boss, who offered her some constructive criticism on the presentation that she worked her tail end off on last week. She's completely frustrated. She worked so hard on that project, and that was not the feedback that she was expecting here. Plus, she didn't really like the tone in her boss's voice about it. He's always such a jerk. She's always hated that job anyways. She could do so much better if she would just be somewhere else where someone would actually appreciate every single thing that she did. How dare someone not agree with every single thing that she presented in that presentation? So, in order to collect her thoughts, she steps outside to call her friend so she can vent. When she steps out, the sun was blaring down on her. It was so freaking hot. I forgot my sunglasses. Now the sun is shining in my eyes and I can't see. And oh great, the person that I'm walking right behind is moving so slow. This day is the worst. Now we're gonna look at her coworker Julie's day. Julie's boss also had a meeting with her, where he offered her some constructive criticism on her presentation. Julie feels frustration creeping in because she worked really hard on this presentation, and the thought that this project was not yet complete and might need some more tweaks and couldn't offload it just yet, it's not her favorite thing. Plus, she doesn't really love her boss's delivery sometimes, but she also knows that overall he's a great boss, he knows his stuff. Maybe he could improve his communication skills, but that's not in her circle of control. She knows that people are human and nobody gets things right all the time, so she's not gonna take his delivery style too personally. She's gonna focus on the underlying message. He liked most of the presentation. He just offered a few points of feedback. That's not personal. That doesn't mean that she failed. It just means that he and I need to work together because we want to make this even better. She knows he cares about this project too, and he wants it to be the best it can be. So she leaves her meeting with a clear head and goes outside. The sun is shining, it's a beautiful day, she can get a lot of thinking done here. It's in that moment an idea hits her, and so she hustles back to her desk to make some corrections to her original project. She realizes that there was something missing, but she couldn't see it while she was in it. She just needed to look at it from maybe a different angle. Okay, so here are these two ladies, and we can see we have the same external stimulus, but the internal process was very different, leading to very different outcomes. Sarah suffered, Julie succeeded. It is so important for us to realize that it's rarely the actual stimulus that is the problem. It is how we are thinking about that stimulus that's problematic. And it's the belief that we hold, how this certain thing should play out, how it should be, that's the problem. It is what leads to that thinking to begin with. Now, when we feel the initial emotion of frustration, it's feeling annoyed, it's feeling discouraged, we have a few options here. Number one, we can feel ashamed that we feel this way, which doesn't help, and it's also silly because emotions are just a normal part of the human process. Emotions are not bad, they're just these little flags that pop up and tell you, hey, there's a story behind this. You may want to check out that story, which leads me to your second option. We can investigate that storyline there. I'm feeling upset. What are the thoughts in my head right now? And be very honest and open about that so that we can ask ourselves, what is it that I'm believing that makes me feel this way? Does everybody believe this? Do I have to believe this? Is believing this thing getting me to the place that I want to go? Can I rewrite that story so that I can think differently? Then I might feel differently so that I can then act differently. So that's going to be your best option, but it requires some work. The last option you have is to not challenge that frustration at all and just let it continue to build. Let the upset turn into agitation, then anger. You let the annoyance turn into resentment and bitterness. You let the discouragement turn into self-doubt, loss of motivation, and feeling overwhelmed. And then you most likely just stop all efforts because nobody can live like that forever. In essence, you're not changing any story, you remove the stimulus. So I personally want to help you get better at number two because that is where your life gets better. That option illustrates having emotional intelligence, which equates to a happier life. So let's start by talking about the root causes of frustration because there's several, and it's not an extensive list, but in my opinion, these are the big ones. The first one is our lack of acceptance. Acceptance of how life is, of how you are, and of how others are. Acceptance basically means that we live in reality, not our own version of reality, not what we want reality to be. Acceptance means that we accept what is and we work from there versus wishing things would be different when they can't be or they're not yet. We accept life as it is versus what we want it to be. Life is going to have ups. It is going to have downs. We will face both. That is part of life. There will be highs and there will be lows. We are gonna go through things that we love going through and we're gonna go through things that we don't love going through. There will be joy and there will be pain. It is part of a human experience. We will all experience all of the emotions. If we only expect to go through the easy things, the things that we love going through, we're gonna spend half of our time upset just because life was life. Life is not fair. So we have to embrace life for what it is. We were made to handle it. When you accept the challenges and work through them, you become stronger. So we accept life for what it is, the ups and the downs. We have to learn to accept ourselves for who we are. We are human. We are imperfect. We don't already know how to do everything, but we can learn how to do just about everything if we put our attention there. If we try to acquire a new skill, we can do it. Life is all about having a growth mindset and learning new things along the way. We should be lifelong students. The more mistakes you make, the more you're gonna learn. But only if you take them as learning opportunities versus getting frustrated and quitting. We learn about this in our programs, but this is part of the human experience. We can choose to fight it and be mad about it and get angry and annoyed when we eat certain foods and it causes our bodies to respond in a certain way. We can feel like the world is against us and like we are the only ones that this happens to, or we can listen when our bodies try to communicate with us. We need to accept that we are human beings, and that means that we have a natural resistance to the unknown. So we have to become used to other things, which takes time. We are humans, meaning that our brains hardwire most of our daily behaviors into autopilot mode. They do this to make our life easier, except a lot of our autopilot behaviors make our life harder in the long run. Habitual behaviors lead to habitual outcomes. If we want to have new outcomes, we have to start replacing the old habitual behaviors with new habitual behaviors that have a different outcome. The more that you repeat that new behavior and not the old one, the quicker that happens. The second thing we're talking about today is your circle of control. Nothing will make you more frustrated and suffer more than stepping outside of your circle of control. Your beliefs, your attitudes, your thoughts, your responses, your behaviors, your choices. What is outside of your circle of control? Life events, other people. Yet we tend to spend most of our time and energy fighting those things. When we focus on our circle of control, this is called personal responsibility. And if you really want to change your life very, very quickly, this is the first move you should make. Owning your circle of control. That means taking full accountability for the truth of your life and the truth of who you are. You have to be able to acknowledge that we are where we are because of the decisions that we've made. And you know what? It's fine to be where you are, seriously. Accepting where you are is the very first step to moving from here. The second step is realizing that you are going to have to be the one that moves from here. The fourth thing we need to do is learn how to manage our expectations. Having expectations, those are just a natural part of life. We all have certain wishes for how we think and want things to turn out. When those expectations are too high, we are going to feel frustrated. I get it. If we are investing our time, our money, our energy into achieving a particular outcome, we tend to build up these expectations pretty high in our minds, and we create this vision of how things should be. And when reality does not align with the vision that we had, it can be incredibly disappointing. I will never forget the day I was told that I was carrying a baby that would have a very hard time surviving. My expectations that day were to walk in, listen to a heartbeat, and be told that I had a healthy baby, just like I had before with my first child. When I walked in and was delivered that news, I crumbled. Reality did not match my expectations whatsoever. Coming to terms with lifing was one of my hardest lessons, but it's one that I'm very grateful for. We can always have a plan, but we are not guaranteed that the plan will work out. We are guaranteed that we are resilient human beings and we can survive and adapt to what does happen. We set these incredibly high standards. We place this huge amount of pressure and stress on ourselves to achieve those things, which feels totally overwhelming because we want to get everything done perfectly right now. We don't like to not excel at things, so if we are not excelling and we're not doing it as quickly as we think that we should, we quit, because who can feel like that forever? I know it's really hard when you are used to being a perfectionist, but the road to progress is not paved with perfection. It is paved by taking actions and learning as you go and being a beginner and then getting better at that and then taking the next step and being completely awful at it for a minute and then getting better at that and then taking the next step. You have to be willing to fail and not be good at something at first. If you're doing everything perfectly, you've got that down. It's time to move forward. Go do something else you don't know how to do already. And finally, another reason that we get so frustrated is we just keep repeating the same mistakes. We're self-sabotaging. If there is a gap between where you are now and where you want to be, and the reason you can't close that gap is because you keep engaging in self-sabotaging behaviors, there's honestly nothing more frustrating than that. I know, because I've been there, I've done that. Weight loss in itself is notorious for making people frustrated, which is an emotion that we want to notice immediately. And as soon as you notice it, you've got to flip into problem-solving mode versus just letting it roll into bigger emotions that are not going to help you. Staying in the frustration is going to make you want to quit. Fat loss is not fast for anybody, and I hate to tell you, you're not going to be the exception. Every 0.2 pounds, every 0.5 pounds is going to be a huge deal. And I get it, while you're so plugged in on the day-to-day, it doesn't feel like anything, especially when you have 60 pounds to go, but it adds up. And if things aren't moving as quickly as you would like them to, the tendency to become frustrated, which is a stress response, and then throw in the towel and just eat whatever you want, which ironically is really gonna slow things down for you, is not the answer. You have to learn to respond to the stimulus of slow weight loss differently. First, I want you to ask yourself if your expectations are set way too high. Are you only happy if you see 2 pounds down every morning? Ask yourself, is that reasonable? Is that normal? I think we should worry if that were the case. I would want you to go see a doctor and have yourself checked. That's not normal. That is not how fat loss works. The second thing you want to ask is, am I dealing with some inflammation here? Did you eat something that caused your body to have an inflammatory response? Get curious instead of getting frustrated. Maybe I had some sugar last night and I haven't had that in my diet in a while. My body's just retaining some fluid. It's inflamed. It normally looks like 1 to 2 pounds on a weight stable person. Does this mean we panic and say, oh my God, we're gonna die? No, guys, it just means, oh, interesting, that's why the scale's up. I'm just gonna wait out that fluid shift and get right back into it. It's a biological process and I'm just gonna wait it out. So quit freaking out, quit saying, I can't ever eat out again. It's fine. You just have to wait it out. We're not pointing out these things to say, you can't have them, they're deadly. We're just pointing it out so that you don't kill yourself when you see the scale not go down. The third thing you're gonna ask yourself if that scale gets stalled is, how is your digestion today? Are you having regular BMs? Did you eat later than normal yesterday and maybe your food has not digested yet? What is your water intake like? Are you breaking down the proteins that you're eating? Are you getting any fiber in your diet? These are things you'll want to ask yourself versus taking that scale up, chunking it across the room, and quitting your program altogether. The fourth thing is obvious. Ladies, where are you at in your cycle? Are you ovulating? Are you about to start? Are you even tracking this? You should be. Most women don't even realize that they can gain just as much weight when they ovulate as when they're on their actual cycle. So again, you step on the scale, you are up. Do not throw the scale in the trash can. Say, wow, this is just part of the biological process. The fifth thing you're gonna check in on it. How was my sleep last night? Did you get a good night's sleep? Are you prioritizing sleep? Your sleep schedule will truly affect the scale. So you have to be prioritizing these things. If you wake up, scale is up, how is my sleep? Number 6, are you eating bites that you're not accounting for? So maybe you're logging your food and you're like, I don't get it, I'm in a deficit and I'm not losing weight. But yet you're eating your kids' crust or grabbing goldfish here and there, grabbing nuts and nuts and nuts, and before you know it, you've blown your deficit. The 7th thing is gonna sound super weird, but I gotta ask, are you chewing a pack of gum a day? Because if you are, turn that bad boy around and take a look at a whole pack of gum is 30 carbohydrates. The next several, I'm just gonna breeze through because these are things I want you to get curious about and ask yourself instead of getting frustrated on your weight loss journey. Are you measuring your food accurately? Did I drink any alcohol? Did I drink anything yesterday with calories in it? Do I feel myself getting sick? Because we would have that same inflammatory response. Am I taking any new medications or supplements? Did I drink all my water yesterday? Am I dehydrated? Did I do a workout yesterday and now I'm sore, which makes you retain fluid in your muscles, which could make the scale go up? Did I have a high stress day yesterday and how did I manage that stress? Did I even manage it, or am I still ruminating over and over and over? Basically, guys, if you let weight loss be a process where you're waking up and starting your morning extremely frustrated and stressed out, it will slow you down. You are going to send yourself into a stress response every morning, which slows down weight loss. Stop getting frustrated at the scaling. That every time you get frustrated, every time you send yourself into a stress response like that, it's gonna slow you down. It's gonna make you wanna quit. It's not gonna solve your problem. So what I'm trying to teach you to do is instead, what can I do? What problems can I solve to close that gap? Because just being mad about it is not gonna close the gap. You have to take actions to close the gap. And if you're not here already, just being mad about it is not gonna get you there. When it comes to weight loss, it takes a certain amount of time to get from here to here. And you have to just keep taking steps. So when you wake up and you're frustrated at the scale, notice I'm frustrated, which means I'm not managing my expectations. I wanted this to happen quicker, it's not. I expected to get away with what I ate yesterday and I didn't, and now I'm mad about it. Figure it out. What are you feeling and why? What is the main thing that's upsetting you? And then say, okay, well, it is what it is. Now I have to move forward. Take your frustration, learn something from it, solve your problems, and keep moving forward. So when you're feeling frustrated, instead of letting it spiral, I want you to grab it and I want you to ask yourself questions and start solving problems. Y'all have a great day and I'll see you next time. Bye.